Happy Sunday. I'm Reverend Kathy, and I'm from Unity North Spiritual Center in Coon Rapids, Minnesota. And welcome to our Sunday lesson on May 17th, 2020. If you're new with us today, just know that we are an inclusive community. We welcome and accept all people. And you can find out more about us on our website at unitynorthmn.org. There you'll find past videos and donation button if you care to contribute. Also, you can sign up or check out our class that's happening now, 7 Dynamic Laws of Healing and Prosperity. And we're 3 weeks into a 6-week class, but you're absolutely welcome to come. At this point, though, just after you look at the flyer and see if you're interested, just email me. And my email is McCall, that's KMCCALL12@gmail.com. And I hope you join us. And so today I'm going to start with our daily word, and I'll read that and then move right into the lesson, which today is called Creative Artist. So just take a moment, sit back and relax, close your eyes if you like, and listen to the word for today. The daily word today is let go, let God. I let go and trust the divine in me. When faced with a decision to make, do my thoughts turn immediately to divine guidance? Or do I seek God's help only when all else fails? Unity co-founder Charles Fillmore wrote that God loves to be used, and the more you use him, the more easily you use him, and the more pleasant his help becomes. God lives in me and expresses through me. All of the attributes of God are as near as my next thought. I release my attachment to limited human reasoning. I center my mind and heart on the constant flow of divine love, wisdom, understanding, and strength. In the divine flow, I find answers to questions. New possibilities for good emerge. I move forward with confidence. And from Deuteronomy 4:29, from there you will seek the Lord your God, and you will find him if you search after him with all your heart and soul. So today we let go and trust the divine in us. And so the lesson today, as I said, is Creative Artist. Today's science is instructing us in the origins of creativity and finding that the whole universe is permeated with the power of change and birth. Everything has within itself the power of creativity, the power of giving birth, the power of surprise. Creativity also comes out of our joys and our sorrows. The 13th century mystic Mechtild of Magdeburg taught that we are given 2 wines to drink in this life, the white wine of joy and the red wine of suffering. Until we have drunk deeply of both, she observed, we have not lived fully. The joy of love, of birth, of connection with life invokes creativity. We become inspired to create. And the sorrow of life, the heartbreak, also opens us so the universe can pour through. I love that because the universe pours through us. Each one of us has wonderful creative abilities in the way we co-create our lives each day. We are all creative artists of life, though some do have specific talents in the arts. Robert Benchley said, "It took me 15 years to discover that I had no talent for writing, but I couldn't give it up because by that time I was too famous." Well, I decided to use the letters in the word artist to speak about creativity today. So A in the word artist stands for awareness. You know, all of our spiritual traditions the world over agree that creativity flows through the human heart from the divine heart. Artists all. It behooves us to become aware of the divine creator so that we may better access the creativity that moves and often pours through us. We are even creative in our names for the divine. There's Wakantanka, Brahman, Allah, Tao, Goddess, Yahweh, God, Holy Spirit, Great Spirit, Christ, the One, the Creator, Buddha, Krishna, Rama, on it goes. In the Islamic tradition, there exists a special spiritual exercise of reciting the 99 most beautiful names for God. And here are just a few. The Fashioner, the Maker, the Creator, the Expander, the Constrictor, the Maintainer, the Preserver, the Awakener, the Loving, the Wise One, the All-Embracing, the Generous One, and so forth. I will not recite all 99. But it's said that God is an artist and the universe is God's work of art. And we are born in the image and likeness, co-creators with God. We are all creative. We have the divine presence within us, that creative impulse always seeking some sort of expression. And the more we're aware of that divine presence, the more creative we become. But we have to release our fears and blocks. And that takes us to the next letter, R in the word artist, stands for release. Author Julia Cameron believes that much of the neurosis in our culture is merely a matter of blocked creativity. Many of us carry around the image that the only place to express our creativity is through the arts. But our lives offer a myriad of possibilities to express creativity. One place is in our work. Whatever we do, painter, writer, sales rep, activist, teacher, research analyst, physician, electrician, parent, grandparent, any area offers us countless opportunities to be creative. And God tries hard to get our attention, but we must release our fears and our blocks. Clarissa Pinkola Estes, Jungian analyst and author of the book Women Who Run with the Wolves, likens our creativity to a flow of water that rises, rolls, surges, and spills into us. She says we can't lose our creativity because it's always there, ready to flow, unless we block it or somehow pollute the stream, the river of creativity. We can pour a variety of pollutants into our personal rivers. For example, we tell ourselves that we will give the soul time to create something off in the foggy future when we take those days off or when such and such project is finished. Have you ever said that to yourself? Well, we have those days off now. Or an inner voice might say, only if you have a doctorate will anyone take you seriously. Only if you get published in XYZ magazine will it matter. Only if you receive some certain reward. Only if you were younger. You know, the only ifs are powerful pollutants in the river. Sometimes we think we're adding nutrients to our river by taking a workshop here or having a little reading time there, but that may not be enough. Other pollutants may be those who do not understand or respect our creative process, those who criticize or fail to recognize our need for time and space to create. You know, a powerful toxin is our own addiction to responsibility. So many things we should be doing preventing us from our creativity. I know that one very well. You know, one way to start cleansing our river is to find some quiet space and time. With no agenda or purpose, we just take time to clear the mind and the thoughts. One would think that would be easier now with stay-at-home orders, but I've heard some people say, I'm busier now than ever. And I would say, well, pause, try to think again, stop, and create again. The pollution of our creativity may start very young. Gordon McKenzie was an artist and a creative manager at Hallmark who was committed to helping everyone get in touch with the artist within. He would often speak to various audiences, including school children. And with the kids, he would always open by introducing himself, telling the kids that he was an artist and how he noticed a lot of art around the school, and he wondered who the artists were that had made the art. So he would ask, how many artists are there in the room? Would you please raise your hands? Well, the pattern of responses was always the same. In first grade in math, the children leapt from their chairs, arms waving wildly, eager hands trying to reach the ceiling. Every child was an artist. In second grade, about half the kids raised their hands, shoulder high, no higher. The raised hands were still. In third grade, at best, about 10 kids out of 30 would raise hands, tentatively, self-consciously, and so on up through the grades. By the time he reached sixth grade, no more than 1 or 2 would raise their hands, and they did it ever so slightly, guardedly, their eyes glancing from side to side, uneasily, betraying a fear of being identified as a closet artist. Well, Gordon believed that each of us is a creative genius, an artist. And as children, we knew this, absolutely. For when we looked to some authority figure for validation, we usually didn't get it because creative genius challenges authority. Creative genius challenges authority. So when we left our childhood behind, we didn't get the support we needed. The letter T in the word artist is for trust. We must learn to trust our images and have a faith in our creativity. And that means we take a leap into the unknown and do something new and different. I did that a few years ago. The adults in my life pretty much always encouraged my writing as I grew up, which I've spent a lot of time doing. So I could always write, and I could draw early on as well, but that was never encouraged. But after all the years, I decided to take 2 art classes. And these 2 paintings that I did were my first results since junior high. I'll show them to you. Let me find them here. This is the first one. And I was amazed. That was my very first try after many, many years, really since junior high. And this was my second try. So, sometimes we just don't even have a clue until we begin. So I want to do more. I absolutely want to do more art. And again, I've been trying to create the space and time. Now I have to get rid of the word try in there and do it. So trust in our creativity is also affirmative. We keep our thoughts positive about ourselves as creators. We become our own authority, trusting in our own guidance and process, even amidst outer criticism. Someone was once questioning the artist Picasso's unique way of painting. The man told Picasso that he ought to make pictures of things the way they are, objective pictures. And when Picasso said he did not understand, the man produced a picture of his wife from his wallet and said, "There, you see, that's a picture of how she really is." Picasso looked at it and said, She's rather small, isn't she? And flat? I love that. Well, the letter I in the word artist stands for intuition. Each of us has the divine spark within, that presence of the holy, and we listen or we do not listen to that inner voice. But that is where truth is found. Some call it intuition. Some call it the Holy Spirit. Others simply say, listen to your heart or your gut. It is intuition and the golden thread of synchronicity which leads us on the right path if we will pay attention. When we listen and believe, it's always right. When we don't, we tend to get into trouble. You know, we're grown-ups now, though. We have to trust our own inner voice, even if it does not seem to fit in. Robert Fulghum speaks to that in one of his wonderful stories from his great book, All I Really Need to Know I Learned in Kindergarten. He writes, giants, wizards, and dwarfs was the game to play. Being left in charge of about 80 children, 7 to 10 years old, while their parents were off doing parent things, I mustered my troops in the church social hall and explained the game. It's a large-scale version of rock, paper, and scissors, and involves some intellectual decision-making. But the real purpose of the game is to make a lot of noise and run around chasing people until nobody knows which side you're on or who won. So organizing a room full of wired-up grade schoolers into 2 teams, explaining the rudiments of the game, achieving consensus on group identity, all this is no mean accomplishment. But we did it with the right goodwill, and we were ready to go. The excitement of the chase had reached a critical mass. I yelled out, "You have to decide now which you are, a giant, a wizard, or a dwarf." While the groups huddled in frenzied, whispered consultation, a tug came at my pants leg. A small child stands there looking up and asks in a small, concerned voice, "Where do the mermaids stand?" Where do the mermaids stand? A long pause, a very long pause. "Where do the mermaids stand?" says I. "Yes, you see, I am a mermaid." "There are no such things as mermaids." "Oh yes, I am one." She did not relate to being a giant, a wizard, or a dwarf. She knew her category, mermaid. And she was not about to leave the game and go over and stand against the wall where a loser would stand. She intended to participate wherever mermaids fit into the scheme of things, without giving up dignity or identity. She took it for granted there was a place for mermaids and I would know just where. Well, where do the mermaids stand? All the mermaids. All those who are different, who do not fit the norm, and who do not accept the available boxes and pigeonholes. Answer that question, and you can build a school, a nation, a world on it. What was my answer at the moment? Well, every once in a while I say just the right thing. "The mermaid stands right here by the king of the sea," says I. Yes, right here by the king's fool, I thought to myself. So we stood there hand in hand, reviewing the troops of wizards and giants and dwarfs as they roiled by in wild disarray. It is not true, by the way, that mermaids do not exist. I know at least one personally. I have held her hand. Well, the letter S in the word artist is for surrender. And in this story just told, Robert Fulghum followed his intuition, but he also surrendered in the moment and went with the flow. You know, when we say yes to our heart's delight, we become partners with the life force itself. We become a vessel for that force. And in all humility, we forget our fears in our love of the creation that engages us so fully. We can surrender to the creative impulse, by taking time to explore creativity and protecting that time. Let us turn off the phone, pause, rest in the silence, and see what the universe is up to through us. Let us sit in the uncertainty of creative birth and surrender to the inner goddess. We are in God, and she is in us. And that means we are at the center of creation. All we need to do is release our creativity and then get out of its way and see the wonders that God will work through us. And that brings us to the last letter in the word artist, transformation. Then transformation occurs. That is what the final letter T stands for, transformation. Elaine Myers shares 2 examples of it. During World War I, a brilliant Austrian piano virtuoso was wounded and his right arm amputated. His musical career seemed to be at an end. Yet his creative spirit persevered. And Paul Wittgenstein spent many waking hours and resources devising new techniques that allowed him to play chords once thought impossible for a one-handed pianist. His call to find a greater way to express his creativity continues to bless and inspire pianists to this day. Another example, as an artist in residence on an oncology floor, Colleen Darby helped patients find a creative outlet. One day she exchanged an innocent pleasantry with a patient, stating it was a beautiful day outside. The patient replied, "It always looks the same from here." That exchange sparked Darby's creativity with the realization that every patient deserves a room with a view. She went on to create landscapes, painting with a purpose, to take otherwise cold and sterile hospital environments and create large, beautiful collages that combine natural images and words. Now, these are just 2 examples of people answering the call of spirit to find an outlet for unhampered and unlimited creativity. By listening and following their creative impulse, their own lives were transformed, and so were the lives of others. Creativity can be more than just music or art. It can also be about ingenuity in solving problems and inventive ways to help humanity. There are cures waiting to be discovered for all kinds of conditions. The spiritual, physical, and intellectual expressions of who we are have the potential to motivate, inspire, and transform others. And what about simply the creativity of cooking for loved ones? I mean, what a wonderful gift that is. Make creativity a daily habit. Now let me repeat the letters in the word artist to help. A for awareness, become aware of the divine within, urging you to greater creativity. R for release, release your fears and blocks. T for trust, trust yourself and have faith. I for intuition, follow your intuitive hunches and your guidance. S for surrender, by letting go and letting God move in and through you. And finally, T for transformation. Transform yourself and others by calling forth your creativity, acting on it, and creating something new. Think of the young scientists today who are starting to transform our world by creating new biodegradable forms of plastic, and those who are discovering actually ways to dissolve plastic that is not biodegradable. So many things are going on in the world that are creative. to close today, just think of all the wonderful masks that are being made right now, all of the poems and songs being written, all of the funny videos recorded. I'm thinking of one that popped in my head of a woman who's in her exercise tights and leotards, and she's singing the song "I Will Survive" as she's going through her house drinking in between verses. And her husband's sitting on the couch reading a newspaper, completely oblivious, as she's singing "I Will Survive" at the top of her lungs. There's so many funny videos. Think of our new reality and the creativity occurring in virtual Sunday services and meetings. Also in online classes for adults and for children so they could finish their school year. Consider the creativity being used to order and find supplies now, to organize shopping, to study a disease and find a vaccine, a cure. You name it. Everywhere we look right now, creativity is exploding forth and will be our saving grace. Thank God for creativity, and each one of us for the creative artists that we are. And if you don't believe that as I say it, keep looking inside and trust that you will. God bless you. Have a wonderful week using your creativity.